Hey, Dara.
Hi, Vicky.
Yeah, good to have you again and have another conversation with you on the masculine today.
Yes, so funny. On a podcast calling Being Woman, two women talking about the masculine.
Two women bodies talking about the masculine. Yeah, and as I said in the other try we just had, it's super special for me actually when women are interested in expressing the masculine energy in their tiny female bodies. Yeah, expressing actually, power, I would say, in their tiny female bodies. And I've been tuning in, like, who is representing also that for me, which woman, and as I've experienced you and just observed you online and also seen you in the initiations, you definitely embody that also. I'm not sure if you would agree or if you would agree that you have an expression of that masculine in your body. Maybe that's my first question.
Yeah, beautiful question. I think generally when we enter this discussion, around the masculine and the feminine, we need to be very clear on what we're actually talking about, because there's, let's say, something in our society which often is kind of put on women when people say, oh, this woman there in politics, she's really too masculine, or there's this kind of masculinized women that exist, especially in positions where women had to fight their way up in a masculine system in, politics or business, where we had to become, or a lot of women, you see them become really hard and harsh on the outside, and then we say they have become too masculine, which in reality is actually not giving the word masculine and feminine and giving that whole dynamic the right essence, because there is no too masculine. Masculine is actually a quality, like feminine is a quality, and you cannot be too masculine unless you're actually in the shadow aspect of it. Then that's what we call too masculine. But too masculine would actually just mean being really present, being really, really holding space, being really, really responsible for time and space and creation of that which within the feminine can then thrive. So my understanding of feminine and masculine is more that the feminine is everything that moves, the energy that moves, its thoughts, emotions, feelings, everything that moves in this world is feminine. And it's not necessarily tied to the idea of my sex, my actual sexual essence. And then there's masculine essence, which is that everything that holds space, that's the consciousness that holds the space for the energy to move. So within that, I feel it's a very nice way into that subject rather than sexualizing it. But obviously I am in a feminine body, and my body as a feminine goes through cycles, has different kinds of ways of how it interacts with the energy that's around me. So my essence in the core is more feminine. On the spectrum, let's say if there's feminine here and masculine here, I am more towards the feminine energetic expression of life. However, my deep belief or my deep feeling that in life we only become whole when we explore the whole spectrum that is given to us. So if you're born into a feminine body, we're also asked to step into not just the expression of feminine, which we've seen a lot in the recent years. I've seen a lot of work on femininity, like we're becoming more empowered as women. We're becoming more daring to say, I have cycles, I need to honor them, I need to rest, I'm very powerful in certain times of my cycle and not so powerful in others, and I must respect and honor that. So, and then there is another part of us that gets inspired by, of course, the masculine expression that we have in the world. And to be quite honest, the masculine isn't very healthy. So is the feminine, because when there's one unhealthy, we're always in some kind of equilibrium around that. So the masculine that we see in our culture is very shadowy. Yeah. So we have a lot of shadow, which is then dragging a lot of women into the false belief that when they think they want to be successful or they need to do certain, they want to actually make it in life, they have to adopt this shadow behavior of the masculine. My personal feeling, and that's what I'm exploring right this moment, I'm certainly not a master in it yet, but I'm exploring as I'm stepping more into action, as I'm stepping more into, I want to create a wave of change with the initiations that I'm doing with Itai. I really want to have impact. And as you're stepping into, everybody who steps into that realm where you're like, I have purpose, I want to follow it, you will meet your inner masculine. You will meet what that inner masculine has to do in order to support that. And actually in the beginning, I realized how shadow masculine my masculine was, how much it was pushing my feminine down, how it wasn't creating space for me to rest, how I would go into this kind of internal feminine victim, like, oh, I don't have time to eat, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. And then I recognized, no, this is not the right way to do this. And this is not being in my masculine. This is actually being in an out of aligned feminine and in an out of aligned masculine. So the challenge is to educate our inner masculine in the way that it actually holds the space for the feminine to creatively explore, and at the same time it also creates the structure where the feminine isn't constantly like all over the place and lost in its emotions and oh, this is too hard and oh, I can't do it. This often comes from, let's say, our feminine aspects. Yeah, it's like, oh, I have a big challenge, I want to grow, I need to do something different, I don't know how to do it. Then my mind can take over, and in that sense it's my feminine energy, my emotional body can take me over and drag me into impossibility. I cannot do it, it's too much, I don't know how to do it. Or my masculine can step in and say, no, this is the structure, this is how we're going to move forward, here is the safety. Look, I'm creating a structure for you. I'm finding solutions. Now start to run your creative energy. So this kind of dialogue I'm having more and more inside of me in order to call out the healthy masculine.
Call out a healthy masculine. Yeah, so you said many beautiful things, and especially this shadowy expression within ourselves, that it really starts within ourselves, that there is, as long as there is a shadowy expression, there's no access to a healthy expression. And that's where I find it's a huge challenge to find orientation, because like I can, as you said, name these qualities like it's presence and structure and holding, and yet at the same time, when I don't have a felt experience of that in my own body, because I don't have role models maybe, or because there is no healthy expression of that energy in the world, I tend to get lost and into these things that you describe. And I would like to really find out, what do you do to clean the masculine, like this inner conversation, observing where are you, the pushy, like violent masculine, maybe I'd like to go deeper into that.
Beautiful. I think the realization births actually out of one of the rituals of the initiation that we do, which is the one of I love you as my son, I love you as my daughter, and the recognition that I am parent. And when I look at my masculine, and this just for those who are listening and may not have come to the initiation, this is a beautiful journey that Itai, Ganot, and me are doing to really. It's a very mystical journey, and we dive very deeply and move into movement and body and everything. It's like a very deep merging of the feminine and masculine, in my opinion, and in the way I feel it. And one of the rituals is centered around the piece of saying to one another, I love you as my daughter, or I love you as my son. And something really deep shifts in that. And I don't want to go into describing it too deeply, because some things also need to stay in the mystery. But what opened for me, even though I am already a mother myself, physically, like I do have a daughter, but something very deep opened through this ritual for me as the understanding of parenthood that is grander than just me and my child. It is way, 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 way grander. So and even here I drag, and with this conversation and the idea of a healthy masculine, I bring into the picture that this inner masculine is actually my inner father. And how would that treat, the wounded child, the wounded feminine inside of me that is definitely wounded, and my inner masculine is also wounded, but one has to step up. One of them has to mature in order to create the space of healing. And I've created a lot of healing for my inner feminine. In the last years, I worked a lot with feminine tools and opening my pleasure and maturing myself in my way of feeling myself stronger and opening everything that's opening my ability to feel. I would say that's one of the core principles that we need to learn as feminine, and at the same time also not to drag it into drama, but to just be, not to make stories out of our feelings, but just to feel them and release them, constantly being in the body, being in the feeling, being in motion, allowing energy to move through us and not to get stuck and tight because we're afraid and we're wounded because we're afraid to move this energy. So this is one part. And then the healing of the masculine for me acts through if I had an ideal father, and of course we didn't really have a lot of role models for even ideal fathers, because we're living in a world of post-trauma from our childhood, and as good as your parents might have been, they've done some mistakes. Somebody once said, we're all gloriously fucked up because we all had childhood. So there, it's just like there's no way around that. Our fathers did the best they could. My father, I love him dearly, but still, we are traumatized by that in some way or another. So my ideal father, how would this father figure within me treat my inner feminine? And from that, I recognize that actually my feminine has a lot of placed victim stories, and it kind of put it into the jar of the masculine. My man is not treating me right. I'm always overpowered by all these powerful men. I don't have enough standing. Nobody listens to me because the men are always louder. There's a lot of stories of inner victimhood in the feminine, in the story of the feminine, and to actually make a choice here in the inner feminine to not be a victim anymore, not of people, not of places, not of circumstances, and especially not of the masculine, but to actually step into, I always have the power, I always have solutions, creative ideas to shift my situation, and then to allow the masculine to take care of creating the space for the solutions, not to override the emotions or whatever is there, but to create the space and the time for that. And it is really, then it becomes just a merging. Actually, it's no longer masculine, feminine. The more you do that, the more I do that for myself, the more I have this conversation between them where they become just taking care, where they're not masculine against feminine. It's me doing or me feeling. It's actually, no, let's find the greatest expression of our healthy togetherness so we can move forward in life. I guess the question is mostly why. If you don't have a why, if you don't have a why, why are you doing what you're doing? The how will always be hard. But if you have a why, the how will be found between those two aspects of everyone, the men and the women. They all have these different parts in ourselves. And when we find the dance between them and we become parents, either like the masculine is the parent for the feminine is the parent for the masculine. There is no hierarchy in that. We're meeting constantly in the position of taking care. Then this dialogue changes, or for me, this is at least what I'm experiencing. I don't know how, maybe it's very abstract for somebody who hasn't gone through what I've gone through, but my whole life I've been inspired by the idea of how to bring masculine and feminine together, how not to polarize them. Polarization is, or not polarization, polarity is beautiful between in the sexual context, whether you're a man or woman doesn't matter, but your sexual essence, when it meets in polarity, it's beautiful. That's where it belongs to. We don't actually have to polarize our masculine, feminine on the outside of expression, and specifically when it comes to creation, when we want to move forward, the why am I doing what I'm doing? If I have a motor that is my heart and comes from this place, the two in reality want to move forward together. But again, it's a question of maturity also, like of our inner mature heart. How much have you worked with your feminine? How much have you worked with your masculine? And how much can we bring them together?
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and maybe for the people who don't know so much about it, for me, it was very, very helpful to hear that one important piece is first recognizing that I carry both these energies equally in me, and that there is a fight between them, and that they can, like, they are blocking each other and they can't work together when there doesn't come a dialogue, a conversation. So I was very touched by the dialogue that you said, and I noticed within me when I did sessions or constellation work with the feminine and the masculine, that there really is like I mean, a war sounds so dramatic, but it was really like that. It was like a huge graben, a huge like
valley or abyss.
Yeah, gap between them, and there was no real movement possible, let alone a dialogue. And as you said, masculine like beating up the feminine, and the feminine lying there and doing nothing. And also the piece of the feminine carries the victim's story, and as long as it does that, like being in this drama triangle, like the drama queen and the perpetrator, there cannot really be any movement forward. So maybe that's just, I'm just repeating it to make it a bit, yeah, maybe more understandable still. And yeah, and how to step out of it, like taking responsibility that it is like that, and that it is in me like that. And then just to clarify, is the why, because I was also touched, the why and the how, is that also the why is coming from the feminine? Because I understand the feminine when I talk to like shamans or so, like the old feminine is the carrier of the wisdom, and yeah, the masculine is more like, yeah, the protector, you know, the space holder. So is this why coming from the feminine? Because I think many people don't know how to find the why. Yeah.
Yes, of course. If we look at this world and the earth at the moment, there is no question, there's no doubt about the war that we all carry inside of ourselves, because we have a war outside, not just between people. We have a war on the earth. We're pillaging the earth. We're cutting down the rainforest. There's endless amounts of stories of how we create war towards nature, towards mother, towards that feminine principle. So what is outside is also inside, and that, so within, you know, you describing so beautifully this gap between the masculine and feminine is our homework. And in reality, the reason why most people don't connect to the why is because their heart is not connected to earth. We don't have this relationship to the feminine earth as it is underneath our feet, providing us with so much. And we're not connecting to the pain that she's going through. When you connect through that pain, even just for a moment, and you take time to feel, the why inside of you will open, why it is necessary for you to have a dialogue between them two and stop the war. Because this is all just it's actually just a shallow expression that we've made as humanity out of the pain that we're feeling. So we're reflecting the way that society is kind of functioning in masculine, feminine ways. The still patriarchal systems are pushing down the feminine. So we're reflecting that within ourselves. And the deeper work we do to connect to the heart, and that, yes, in some way is feminine, but it's also, men are not, they don't have not a heart. Everybody has a heart. And we all have the center of our being that connects us to truth and to this world and to the magic in it, and how we can protect it as parents of the world. We spoke about this in our last conversation, but it is such a big step to step into. Like I'm not talking to the average person when I say these things, because a lot of people, let's say in the Western world, well, a few more can even think that way. Then a lot of people on the planet are not even, wealthy enough or have enough to feed themselves. So to think about not stopping to pillage the earth, it's very, very far out of consciousness. But it is the people that can have these thoughts, that can actually explore more deeply into the why we need to stop the war inside, that can make this shift, because we also have a different economical freedom to do that. Like all the shift of slavery, for example, wasn't only done by the Black people. It was also the white people who saw this is not what we should do anymore. We need to shift this, and they put the money where it needed to make a change. So shifts always come. They must come from the people who have the possibility to do so. And what I've seen recently, or in the last couple of years, or in the last decades of years, is that there's a lot of work towards connecting of the heart, and we need to do that to feel, to liberate that which is stuck inside of our own system. And then there is another step that we need to do, but most people don't, which is then actually to confront the pain of the world, and to not get stuck there, not to let it drag you down into the endless, I cannot do anything, not to make you a victim of that. And this is the step that most people don't do. Because once you start feeling, you get exposed to all of this shit that's happening outside. So you start feeling, and then you start to make a wall, because I don't know what to do with it. I'm a victim. I'm too small. I cannot do anything about that. And this is the crucial point where if we shift that and we come into parenthood, we will find our why. We will find what we can do. It might be a small thing. It doesn't have to be the grandest project of the world, but you will find ways and why to change the structure within you, and how to come into creatorship, because really and truly that's what we're looking for. Like the union of man and woman inside of you is what? When man and woman come together, masculine, feminine come together, what happens? Usually on the most physical level, we create a baby, right? We create life. So the reason for when your inner relationship of masculine and feminine comes together, what will happen is that it will create life. It doesn't have to be a baby, but it will be something that is in service to life. It will be something that is in service to your community, to your family, to your kids, to the people that surround you, or to the earth itself. And I think that those callings, if more and more people begin this inner dialogue, begin to unify there and create the structures and the energy within where that can flow, rather than feeding the war inside and also enemizing the masculine. Oh, I should not be too masculine. Oh, I'm too feminine. No. How can we actually just be healthy with each other and come to creation, to moving forward, to creating something that will shift us and our planet more and more into a loving, caring, beautiful relationship with it?
Yeah. What I observe, because you started with, it's the privileged people who have the space to actually deal with these questions, and it's super important that these people like really spend time healing that, because it's only them who can do it. And yet at the same time, I observe so much struggle in the spiritual community. Like, I'm sure there's many more people who work with that, and I'm in a little bubble. But in the little bubble I just notice, so much confusion and so much struggle around that piece of stepping into service, and especially I think in the like applying it, bringing it into matter. And this is what the dark masculine for me stands for, is this materializing your ideas and your whys. And there is some internal fight, I think, between also the personal and the collective or so, where people just don't go into this simplicity. There is like, I am looking for this, where the fuck is this simplicity, without making it so complicated. This service, where is it right in front of me, or is it not right in front of me, to bring more and more people into coherence, because we need this service to feel a sense, like a meaning in life, an internal like coherence with life. So we need this masculine. And I see so much struggle around that piece. And I think actually that's what you try to bring also with your work with the initiation, to come into the doing and manifesting. But maybe you can speak into this this struggle and what helps us.
The struggle that I observe it just like you very strongly in the spiritual circles. It's like a bit of a we're turning around each other. We're like constantly obsessed with our next wound, with trying to unearth the next challenge, the next true feeling. There's one thing that Itai, when we did the initiation many months ago, he said something like, don't be busy with emotions. And I'm like, I looked at him in total disbelief, because for me, the last 10 years, I've just been busy with emotion. I've been unearthing my own emotional body. I've been getting rid of all the crusts that are that are covering that which I haven't really felt, all the shame, the guilt, all the stuff. And now he comes and tells me, don't be busy with emotion. And I'm like, wait, but no, that I don't want to cut it out. He said, no, it's not about cutting out, but your emotions, most of them are coming from the past. So when you get busy with your emotions all the time and your focus is constantly on your emotions, you will always be busy with the past, and you will constantly activate more and more and more of the past stories. So there will come a time, and I'm not saying it's not important to look at your emotions and not be busy with them. There are stages for everything. Some people really need to unearth their emotional body because it's dug under 10 foot of earth and they don't know anything about them. And they are constantly in their mind and they have no connection to their body. So it's important they do this kind of work. But there comes a time, and I feel this is not happening enough in the spiritual circles. There comes a time where you must shift your focus. You have learned to feel. You've done the work to emotionally connect. You know how the pathways are. You can cry, you can scream, you can express what's going on. You're deeper connected to your body. But then and for me, this was like a time of the sword. This time of knowing when I have to pull my sword, and which is in some way the dark masculine, if for those who are familiar with this system of Bruce Lyon, who talks a lot about that there's light masculine, dark masculine, light feminine, dark feminine, and which is actually a really nice system to explain this a bit deeper, because the dark masculine and the dark feminine, they're actually that aspect of ourselves that brings life to matter, to the actual physical realm, where we can't just be up there in the ether with all the thoughts and the emotions. We need to bring it back into some kind of physical expression. This is life here. We are a physical dimension. We are not an etherical dimension. We come here as souls to experience matter, to experience what it takes to bring an idea into form. If there's any reason for life, I think that's one of the ones that makes us come most alive, like to actually bring something into matter. to birth life, right? Again, the idea of the baby. Is this the biggest miracle of the planet, is that we can just have one child inside and it pops out. But coming back to the to the original story, or to the wait, I need to capture my thought. So the dialogue, I totally lost my stream of thought right now, but you're going to the baby. The sword, exactly. When we take the sword becomes a golden sword, and it becomes that is actually the expression of a very healthy masculine that cuts what no longer is actually serving life. Because if I constantly am busy with my past, unearthing my past, I will constantly be looking backwards and not forward. So at some point I need to cut through the jungle and make space for the new. And the space for the new can only happen if my body is wanting to go into action. So this sword, holding my sword, knowing when to cut what, not because I'm violent to myself, but because I know that this feeding my inner victim and feeding my inner emotions that are constantly circling around the same kind of stories. I'm not enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. Like, how long do I want to circle them in my system? When am I actually ready for that?
Something. Some space just got freed in my belly.
Nice.
Hearing that, and also that it's a golden sword, because like the sword can also be a violent expression of something, or I think many people connect it, and there is some wiring inside of me at least, and I think in many people, that the sword is something violent, but it is a golden sword that serves, and it serves love and life, especially, bringing forward and not moving backward. And in this moment it really helps me to imagine the sword as something more soft somehow.
It's a protector. It's a protector of your garden. It's not when we weed our garden, when we take out things that do not need to grow there because something else wants to grow there, we need to take the sword. We need to cut it out, not because it's bad by its core, it's just a plant. But sometimes we want certain plants to grow together. We want to see that our garden grows in the most beautiful permaculture way. And so for that, we do need to tend to it. So the sword is less of it's not a violent symbol at all. Actually, one of the most core principles of the initiation is that we absolutely do not engage in any violent action, no pushing, no forcing. It is constantly the invitation to step deeply into devotion. And devotion at the core is actually the deep meeting of your feminine and your masculine, because you're no longer in your mind, you're no longer in what you are, so devoted to what you are doing with with all of your presence and with all of your energy. You're totally meeting there. And that's what the sword is kind of cutting away. It's opening a space where you can devote fully, where we become mature children. And I mean children in the way they are devoted. When you see them play, there's nothing but the play. Bringing that energy back into, I am devoted to everything that I do. If I pick up the glass of water and I drink it with devotion, because I know I'm nourishing life. And if I cut this thought, I do it with devotion because I know it will move me forward and it will serve those who surround me. I'm more aware, not just about myself. I have become aware of nature and what it needs and what it's asking me to do. So a lot around awareness that brings the goldenness, like colors. The sword gets colored golden by your awareness. The wider your awareness will become, the more you see what's actually happening, the more shiny, the more golden your sword will become, because it will step into the reason why we're doing what we're doing.
So turned on.
Woo!
Really feel like my womb, my life force, it's really opening. I'm not sure what of the words is the key word, the golden and the devotion piece. And like I have this image, like when we stay with a healthy expression of the masculine, like a warrior that is, I don't know, serving peace or something like that, and it's cutting the way, and it's kind of freeing the way. And somehow when you cut the way, when you free the way, like everything here but really energetically opens, and it's really a wide open space and an awareness that is much bigger, that is earth actually opens, and that I could just feel, and it's really in my body. And I think that's really a missing piece, like how the fuck do you do that? And it somehow, like for me personally, it's in group spaces like the initiation, it's a really beautiful space to open that awareness. And yeah, also thinking, feeling into it, it still touches me almost to tears, the beauty, tender, special space that opens, that opened for me there. And yet I struggle to keep, I struggle to keep it alive. I struggle to stay to stay connected to it. And that's
Yes, because
very,
it's
very
a training.
Yeah,
it's not something like, we are not spiritual children, you know, we are learning not to be that. We have this we all have this naive idea that at some point everything is just going to be fine and I'll be okay, and I'll have learned the things that I needed to learn, and I finally will walk the earth like a king or a queen. But this is a very naive idea. We need to train this frequency and our body. When you put like 20 years, 30 years, 50 years of pain into it, and repetitive thoughts and repetitive feelings that are based on the same narratives, and then you want to shift that, and you have an experience and you shift out of it, you do need to train. You do need to constantly remind yourself and your body to open that. So some of the people come, you know, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times even to the initiation, and every time something deeper opens. Because as much as this is an extremely profound system that really works by educating the body, not the mind, you have your own onion to peel, right? You have, I said it the other day in a beautiful way, like we're in the middle, and then it's almost like a torus, you know, this torus shape that is this beautiful torus shape, and we're in the middle of the torus. So you can go explore everything that's down in your past. You can go and dig. It's infinite, really, because it's constantly circling around itself. But you can also explore the infinity of your creative expression and how you can step into service, how you can live life, like how this is. It's like here you can open up to the infinity, and this will never stop. Like there will always be more expansion possible, just as much as there's always be more pain to dig into. The question is, at some point, which direction are you deciding to go for? Are you feeling that you have enough power within yourself? And do you see why you need to do that? Again, we're coming back to the why. Because if you are still in the idea of, I need to explore more of my pain, there's so much holding me back. So it's because you're not fully having felt the why. Like you're not seeing that there are millions of children on the planet who are starving. And when we really connect to that, there's a part of us that can flip out of our own stories and our own pain with love and compassion. That doesn't mean that they're not worth anything, or that, you know, our pain is less important than other people's pain. It's just like it's again the question of awareness, looking at this earth. Are we willing to actually look at it and what's going on, or are we just consumed in our own little rat race of, my wound still needs this healing? It needs healing, yes, but it's actually quite simple. Like healing isn't so difficult. It's what makes it difficult, or what makes it repetitive, or why we keep, oh, this thing again. Oh, I've worked on this wound. Why is it here again? Why am I having these thoughts again? Is because our sword is not there. We're not cutting enough of the space to feel safe to actually move forward. And we're way too threatened by our mind. Our bodies, the Western society bodies, are really weak. And I see this because I have a partner who's from South America, and he's from Colombia, and he lived a very, very hard life, like nothing that we can imagine. There's traumas that we cannot even fathom. We can really not imagine what he's gone through. And I see him, and when he meets a challenge, it's incredible. Like I'm like freaking out. Oh no, it's not possible. You know, our car got stuck and we couldn't. And I'm like, no, we cannot. And 2 hours later, he calls me. I managed to get it out. I managed to like roll it up the hill all by himself. You know, so he finds solution constantly where my body is already signaling this is really dangerous. We can't do it. It's horrible. So our Western bodies are weak. We don't have enough strength to hold up the wisdom of the body that knows that we can, and that we can take out our sword and we can take and cut and clean and walk forward. This is again this masculine that we need to educate inside of ourselves. And it's actually not like a consciousness thing. It's a body thing. The body needs education. The body needs strengthening and strengthening really to be more powerful than the mind, so that the mind cannot scare us all the time, because it will constantly tell you, no, don't do that, no, that's crazy, no, because life is the unknown. Life is crazy, and your mind will always want to protect you from the unknown. So if you start to only listen to the dimension of your mind, you will not be able to move with life in the way that it actually wants you to suck you in, because it's the magical realm. Life is not happening in the conceptual ideas. Life is happening in magic, and magic, your body is your interface to that. But if your body is weak, you will not be able to pick up the signals and actually translate them properly.
Yummy. Yeah, I'm wondering what else is relevant to find some more clarity also for listeners. Like it is not a concept like a dark masculine, the light masculine, maybe just explaining it briefly what that is. Like when we imagine a cross, there is a vertical line, and the upper point is the expression of soul, and the lower point is the expression of matter. And then we have the horizontal line, which is expressed as masculine and feminine. So because we mentioned these expressions now a few times, and and maybe also to make the transition to also the initiations you do. It's magic. Don't try to fully understand it or grasp it with your mind. Don't. I mean, try and then let it go again. That's, I find, actually a big obstacle of the Western mind, of my mind. That like I dive into the concept and I want to really understand them, but then it's kind of keeping me from fully embodying it as well.
I've had I just want to add something to that, because I've had a beautiful talk yesterday with Itai on that. How in reality we're just conditioned to understand from one dimension of our being. If we would open our idea of from where we can understand, then we will be less irritated by this fact that we won't mentally understand, because the mental is pretty much the only way that we are trained to understand. School systems, everything pushes us into mentally understanding this, understanding that, calculating this, calculating that. When in reality, there are many other dimensions of your being that can learn to understand. Your body being one, your spirit being one, all these different dimensions, your emotions, everything can learn to understand. And when we bring, again, more awareness, when we extend our understanding of understanding and make it inner standing, meaning to understand it from all these different kind of dimensions, then again, we won't be placing so much focus on the mental. It will be one dimension. It can be honored. It's there. It's important, but it's not the only one. And actually, like your body carries much more wisdom. If I tell you you're stupid and you're a little child, you will take that in as food and you will keep it in your cells for the rest of your life. And if somebody tells you that often enough, you will believe it until forever. If I give you, your body, toxic food, what it will do, it will try to puke it out very quickly, right? Like you don't want to keep, or your body will have a reaction and it will try to puke it out. Of course, there is the chance that you die from it if it's a really strong poison, but let's say it's just something that wasn't good for you, you will puke it out. So your body has an internal knowing to puke out that which is toxic, while your mind does not. Your mind takes everything in and keeps it there and transforms it then into your body, and there it will stay in the cells. So it's really important that we strengthen out this body and its resilience towards toxicity, because in the core of the body, it knows what is good and it knows what is right. We feel the rightness within ourselves. There is no question about that. We just need to clear and stop listening so much to the mind. And that's why the initiation is such a powerful way to teach us that, because I can sit here and tell you don't listen to your mind, and you will still listen to your mind because it keeps going like a radio every single time, every single day, 24 hours. So we need to educate the body. There's no other way about that. And for me, one of the most powerful ways is to actually throw yourself into a realm where you don't understand nothing, but you act and you do and you move and you breathe and you're just there, and all of a sudden things start to open. And that's what we do.
Yeah, great. Yeah, for me, it was very, very helpful. I think I have a very educated body already, but just saying that you don't understand only from your mind, you understand from many different levels. I think that's really super key to transport the knowledge of the initiation and also transport the knowledge of archetype. Because it's really like you get fucking lost if you just try to grasp it only with your mind, and you end up in the toxic patterns again, because you feed the mind, and in the mind the trauma is just so hard to grasp because it's so hidden, and like you can never find really orientation or clear, and to clean the body and to strengthen the body is somehow simpler and more fulfilling, and there is a more simple truth, and this like multi-sensorial being that we are, and multidimensional being that we are, is giving answers, but it's a jump into not knowing and
the unknown. We keep coming back to it.
anything basically, and getting used to not knowing it, and kind of getting used to a new language. Beautiful conversation. And maybe just so the initiation is for man and female bodies alike. There will not be made any difference there, and I kind of with my cognitive understanding got lost in the conversation because I stopped understanding it with the mind. Maybe just one last word, like to the masculine in the initiation. So the sword, like we do strengthen it there, right?
Yes,
it is
very much
hard, or is it really the intention bringing the fusion of both of them, healing them, being a conversation? Maybe just the intention for me would be with this topic.
In the way that I see level 1, it is very much about unifying. Like the level 1 of the initiation is all about unifying more and more bringing the masculine and the feminine in the most best relationship to each other, so that they become the creators of life, rather than the internal war, where nothing is created but horror and more tragedy and repeated trauma. No, we want to unify. In order to unify, we need to reunify both of these principles, which is action and care and nurture and sword. Like to have this constant dance. And this is what we're doing. We're going from one ritual structure that is all about care and it's very gentle, and we're whispering words of care into the cells of the feminine bodies, or and the masculine bodies. And then another one where we're like celebrating with so much. It's the essence is celebration and learning to celebrate. And again, here it might sound simple, it's like, oh, everybody can celebrate, we have parties, but we don't have parties where we celebrate everyone, and where everyone is seen in just the same way, where nobody is left behind. We don't have these kind of parties. So we need spaces where the energy is so high in the space, and nobody gets left behind, and everybody gets infused with celebration for the nervous system to clean. So it's neither a feminine nor a masculine space. It's a space where both healthy masculine and feminine are constantly invited to meet, to create, to create. And in that, it is a space that might be challenging, because you go in there and it's like, whoa, lots of energy. We work with high amounts of energy constantly. We're constantly asked to devote, constantly asked to throw ourselves fully, heart first, into the space. And it can be overwhelming because we are educated to fear energy. But that's also one of the things, just to learn, it's energy. It's okay. It comes, it goes, it comes, it goes. Jump in, jump out, jump in, jump out. Make it less melodramatic, make life less dramatic, make your emotions less dramatic. They are emotions. Okay, they're there, let them flow, and then be okay with it. Be done with it. Walk on, walk past. Don't try to analyze. Why did I cry? Why had I tears? Okay, I just cried, and I move on. I move forward. I do something new. That is what we're constantly that's the dance of the initiation from the inside, I would say. So it's very much about the masculine learning its healthy ways and the feminine learning its healthy ways, and them actually having a beautiful relationship inside.
Wow, that was so helpful. And especially, really, it was also for me helpful to translate it into everyday life, that it needs to be a dance. It cannot be one or the other, which I think is the mistake many make. Like, there is one or the other. They go fully into the one and then fully into the other. And again, they don't meet with each other. And that it is a dance of energies, Shiva, Shakti. It's really a dance, and it's beautiful, and it's fun, and it's celebration, and that cannot be missing, that fun and the celebration. And it takes all our parts, like also for me personally, it takes all my parts with them. Like, I don't leave my wounded little self behind and say like, shut up, we're gonna do business now. But it's more like when you're really in fusion and in union, then it takes it with it, and there is a higher energy, and that's how it moves forward. And so it was super helpful and beautiful to hear it. And yeah.
Yes, feeling very infused by that feedback as well. Beautiful.
Yeah, wow, thank you so much. I think I can have many more conversations with you. I would love to, and I
always happy
come again to the initiation. And yeah, I totally get the field. I think not everybody does, but I really, wow, for me it's really truly special.
Yes, I have these flies flying around. It is a special work, yes, and I must say to those who are listening, it's something that will serve you best if you have a really deep inner calling towards it. If it's like something that you don't even understand, it will probably sorry, these flies. It will probably serve you the best.
Some the cows you're surrounded by.
Exactly. That is that is the other side of farm living. But the reason or the people that I see that take the most from this initiation are the ones that follow their inner impulse, because they're ready to trust something larger than themselves, trust magic, trust this impulse of the body. And when you do, then you're also not too confused by the mind during the session, because you're like, okay, we're just going to do this right now. I'm jumping in and I'm fully present. And for those people, it's really beautiful to see what shifts in their life.
Right. So when's the next one?
The next one is 17th to the 19th February in Berlin again. Actually, the last one probably in Berlin. So for those who I know you're kind of settled in Berlin, but for those who are in the Berlin region, we will move on from Berlin and our space there probably for a while. So this is last chance in Berlin, but we will do many others around Europe to come.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we find you in
modernmysticarts.com. That's our name, modernmysticarts.com. You find us on Facebook, Modern Mystic Arts as well, or yeah. We're around.
I will link it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to dive into the endless multiverses of understanding, understanding, masculine, feminine, all these beautiful things. Yes, it was really joyful.
Thank you for your transmission. Yeah. And okay.
Recording. Still recording.
Yeah, I just don't know how to stop it.
Maybe we just have to, I think you have to, usually you can just press the button.